I was a rich woman, I would travel the world with my family. We would go to all the places that make us who we are. And some of these places are locations where our families came from that actually are deep-rooted within us, in our blood. And then some of these places I've only lived through the internet or through photographs. I've only visited them that way. And somehow the culture and those pictures that I envisioned online really made me who I am today. And I have a few places in mind that I would go. I would go to Wurz, Germany, Calabria, Italy. I would visit Japan in the spring. And I would really like to see England, Ireland, go to Stonehenge, see the pyramids. And these are just a few of the places that I would like to share with you today and why I chose those places. And the first one is Wurz, Germany. Many of you might have heard of Würzburg, Germany, but this is a much smaller town, and it's in the same location in the Bavarian mountains. And Wurz, Germany is where my father's father came from. They were Kaisers that lived in Germany, and I was told since our last name is Wurz, it means root in German. So I'm guessing that we had to have some handle on farming and growing things. But we lived in Germany, my family, not me unfortunately yet. But when we did live there, we were asked to leave, and my great-great-grandfather was told if he didn't leave, based on his religious beliefs, from my understanding, that he would, him and his family would be killed. So he left any money that he had, you know, his home, took his family, and came here. So I'd kind of like to see what that town looks like, and maybe even if the house still exists where my great-great-grandfather lived, I'd love to see that. Calabria, Italy. Southern Italy, where my father's mother came from, and looks like the most beautiful place I could ever imagine. I've recently started putting together family history because my grandmother is not sure about a lot of the history of her mother. Her mother died when she was very young, and apparently there's still a brother that did not come over, and he's living in Italy, and he has a son, and I actually befriended him on Facebook. So I hope to put together some unanswered questions for her. But if I could go here, I would perhaps be able to visit some of those relatives and extended family members, and also be able to solve some of the mysteries in her life. Although I was not born of Japanese descent, I have, since I was 16, been very interested in the culture, and in many of the Japanese cartoons that I watch, it seems like springtime in Japan is a very exciting time. They always have festivals and events, and they go and they pack picnics, and they go and sit under the cherry blossoms. And I think that would just be one of the most beautiful times to visit Japan and see all that beauty and smell the sweet nectar of the cherry blossoms, and be able to go to those festivals and celebrate in such a wonderful time in the Japanese season. I have always been interested in English culture. It is also part of my ancestry on my mother's side. One of the stories that I seem to try to get my hands on everything I can is Elizabeth I. I watch all the movies that history movies, documentaries. Also, I'm a big fan of The Tudors, which is a series on Henry VIII and his many wives and their many uh, unfortunate passings and demises. And I would just thought it would be great to go see some of the old castles and walk through history. Ireland is also part of my ancestry. I think it's beautiful, and just all the colors, whenever I look at photos, look so vibrant, and just seems like it goes back to a time where things aren't so rushed and hurried, and you could just go there and really breathe in the dirt and the water and just be one with nature. Which is why I also have been looking at Stonehenge, because a lot of history is there as well. And Stonehenge was used to tell time, to look at the constellations, to plan many events that we can't even think about how long ago. And this formation actually was the basis of a lot of science and principles that we afforded into technology today. The pyramids. I don't think there is a much cooler thing than the pyramids. And although I wouldn't want to go into a tomb, I think that I would just like to maybe go through some of the pyramids that are a little more open. I'm not one for small spaces, but I would like to see the Sphinx and just kind of look at the majestic buildings that people created before a time where they even had the tools to do it. They did it with their own hands, and they did it with teamwork, and unfortunately some other methods of making people work against their will. But they created these beautiful statues that are still standing today. It's amazing. Now, as far as my son, he's still young. So when I acquire all this money, I'd like him to be a little bit older, but I want to stress to him the importance of understanding the diversity in culture, and that just because he grew up a certain way, he's still a product of all the people before us, because just like, we say our parents make us who we are, well, that pattern has repeated before them and before them. And all these different places that I mentioned, the ones that also were a part of my ancestry, those places influenced me. Whether I know what parts or what sections, I know that without learning those things and the teachings that go along with it, I wouldn't be who I am today. And that is a part of culture that I would love for my son to understand. I would love to take him to these different countries and sit down with a group of people that that we don't know very well, or we've never met, and have dinner with them and just talk to them and just kind of see what their daily routine is and their beliefs and what makes them tick. And I think this would be a great educational experience, as well as just a life experience that he could take with him and be a better person for it. But after all my traveling, there would come a time when I would return back to New York State and live on my A-frame on a lake. That would be my plan. I am very much a water girl. I could fish all day and swim all day, so I would have to live on a lake. I don't think I want to live on an ocean. I lived in South Jersey, and I saw too many hurricanes, so it would have to be a lake. And I always thought A-frames were the cutest thing ever, so it doesn't have to be a huge house, even if I'm rich. It has to be location. And I would still live in New York because my family would be here, and even if I was a millionaire, I wouldn't want to be away from my grandparents and my parents, so I would be here. But when I think about all this money that I could have and all the places that I could go, I know that the greatest, most wonderful adventure of my life was meeting my boyfriend and having our son together. And I look forward to even more adventures and trips and things and life experiences that we're going to have together. But I finally know what love is and what it is to have everything I've ever wanted. And I already am rich.